Hello everybody, this is Tortoise, or Želvík in Czech, and welcome to the new Keep Talking Nobody Explodes tutorial. This time we're covering the module called 7, just the number 7. So, what's this module about? It looks like this. It has a display of a stage number, which its initial is 0, and then we have this segments, which is like digital 8. We have exactly 7 segments, which are colored in 8 colors. It's actually black, green, red, blue, cyan, yellow, magenta, and white. And it's just RGB mixing. If you're familiar with that, you just mix colors, red, blue, and green, and get some more colors. However, there are some more things to it. It has multiple stages, but it's not a boss module. You just click through the stages by pressing the LED. You see now we have only one stage after the initial stage. That's because the number of stages is dependent on the number of solvable modules on the bomb. Since we have just one solvable modules on the bomb, as you can see, including the 7 itself, I mean the module 7 itself, then there's only one extra stage. However, the maximum amount of stages that can be generated for the solvable modules is 7. That's probably the why this module is called 7. So you can have 8 stages, the initial plus the 7 extras. So what do you do in the 7 module? Well, you don't really need any edge work, so we can jump right into that. The diffuser has, I think, in my opinion, more responsible, or at least a harder job. They need to read all the digits, all the red digits, green digits, and blue digits for each stage, plus the color of the LED. The initial stage of the LED is always black, so we can just like write LED, we have red, we have green, and we have blue. That will be the numbers. And first LED is always black, so we don't have to write down the color. The black color on LED means just initial, and 0 stage will always be initial. It will always be black, and none of the other stages will be black, because it would just override everything before it. So, let's jump into that. If you're not sure about how the digits look, there's a 47 segment display reference, and these yellow ones are all the digits from 0 to 9. So that's the digits that we're talking about. And if you're just looking for the red ones, if you're not familiar with the RGB, we are mixing some lights, and white contains all the RGB. Then we have secondary color for magenta, yellow, and cyan. Magenta is just red plus blue, so no green. Yellow is red plus green, no blue. And cyan is green-blue without the red. Then we have, of course, red, green, blue. That's primary colors. And every channel contains just the channel itself. So we have these ones. And then the 8th color is black, which doesn't contain any colors. You probably know that if your monitor is turned off, then it has color of black. So that's where it's from. Okay, and now let's use those to read the digits. So the red digit, what does contain red? Yellow, magenta, white, and red. So let's look for these colors. We see there's white, which contains red. This white contains red. Red, of course, contains red. Black does not. And cyan does not. It's secondary color, however, it doesn't contain red. Therefore, we have only these 3 segments red. And this is a digit 7. So we have the digit 7 for red. For green, let's do the same thing. Green is contained in white, yellow, cyan, and green, of course. From these we have just whites and cyan, and those give us the digit 2. And what about the blue one? For the blue one, we have the same segments. I mean, of course, cyan plus white, plus blue, and plus magenta. However, from these we have only these two, so it's a 2 again. So the digit 2. We're quite lucky in this stage, because it was quite easy. However, something else can happen in this module, which is very important before I press the next stage. Before you actually start calculating. You have to be aware of the fact that the digits can be also inverted. That means that instead of having the 7 in red, we can have everything else in red. That means these 4 segments would be red in some way, would contain red, I should say, and these would not. However, these 4 segments don't give you any digit. Like this highlighted is not a digit. So that means that we have to take the digit that is made up from the segments that are not in that color. So from the colors that don't contain the color we're looking for, therefore red in this example, and therefore this, which gives us a digit, it's a 7. And the difference between this 7 and the inverted 7 is that inverted 7 has a minus before it. That's it. That's the only difference. And we didn't mark down the LED color because it's black. Now to the next stage. So we press the LED and get to the next stage. Be careful about not pressing the display. If you press the display, then you'll get into submission state. And you cannot get out of it. You would have to strike. There are a few exceptions, and actually this particular bomb has the exception true. So if I just press the display, oh, it does not. Sorry. Well, therefore that means that we cannot actually get back. We would only strike. If you have anything incorrect, this is the submission mode, we'll get into that, then you'll just get a strike. It will show what is wrong, and the LED will start blinking. If the LED blinks, that means, or is blinking, that means that we're in the actual special state. I actually did not check it. This is the special state. These are the conditions, and one of them has to be true for that. And then you can press the LED to get the stages back, and you'll loop through them. And again, when you press the display, you'll get into the submission state. So let's get our first stage, actually, first non-initial stage. The color of the LED is red, which is the first important fact. And now let's read the digits. So for red channels, we can see that only this yellow and this red does contain red. But this is not a digit. That means that we have to take all the segments not containing red, as I was talking about it previous stage. So this doesn't contain red, this, and of course this. And this is digit 2. So the diffuser would just tell to the expert that for red we have -2. For green, containing green, that's cyan and yellow. If you have a look at what it is, it actually looks like echo, the letter E. However, in the module 7, we don't have letters, we have just digits. And it looks like a 3, however it's the other way. Therefore, it's not a digit, and we have to go into segments that do not contain green, which are these two, blue and red. And this is a 1. Therefore, for green we have -1. And what about blue? Well, we'll have a look what does contain blue. And it's these 5 segments, only these 5, which is a 2. Therefore, it's a +2 for the blue stage. Okay, now we have these. And now we would continue with the next stages the similar way. However, we don't have any more stages. So we just end here. And now the expert has to calculate. The calculations are determined by the the color of the LED. which is either red, green, blue, or white. As I said, the black is only the initial stage. And these are the calculations. Also, you can see some TN and DN. Don't get threatened by that. Like, it's nothing complicated. The TN means the value we have calculated in that particular stage, and the DN is the digit we're getting in that stage. Therefore, like, these equations means just, okay, to calculate your number, take the previous calculated number and add the display digit, and so on. Of course, we'll do these calculations for every channel exclusively. So for red, green, and blue, therefore 3 times for different numbers, and then we'll see what we'll do with the result. Also, you may see that there are 2 columns for inverted value, not inverted value, and inverted value. Inverted value are negative ones, as at least I marked it that way, and there's a good reason why I marked it that way. Because if you have a close look at what the difference between the left and right column is, you can just see that if we multiply each dn on the left in the left column by -1, we'll get the answer in right column. Like this is minus dn minus dn, and then the minus can just go before the parentheses, and yeah, otherwise it's pretty obvious because minus and minus yields plus. And that means that if you closely read this paragraph, all dn's are just assumed to be positive numbers. Positive, probably they meant non-negative, I would say. That means that, because it can be a 0, as I'm aware of. So that means that like if we have a -2 and we shall add it, that would go into this column because it's inverted, and the -2, it would be just the absolute value of -2 as a dn, which is a 2. Therefore we would get -2, dn minus 1, -2. And if we would just add it as, like, not assuming it's just non-negative, but just taking it as it is with this notation, then it would be just 10 minus 1 plus -2, which is the same as before, -2. So we can just ignore this and ignore this paragraph, and it will be okay. So we can just use dn as the number we have actually noted down and ignore the right column. Okay, so that will be the simplification we'll do. Also, for the calculations, as you can see, the black stage is just the initial stage, so we just copy the numbers we got from the first, from the 0th stage, I should say. And from the first stage, we'll do the calculation. Since it's red, the LED is red, then we'll do adding. So we add the number previously calculated, which is 7, to the number displayed, which is -2. 7 plus -2 gives 7 minus 2, which is 5. And 5 is our result for red. Important note, we will not encounter it in this module. However, if the value in any calculation goes below -9 or above 9, then you immediately have to add or subtract the 10 until you get the number between -9 and 9 inclusively. So you always have one digit number, which is either positive, negative, or 0. So for green, we have, again, of course, red LED, so we're adding 2 plus -1 is a 1, and for blue we have 2 plus 2 is a 4. These are our calculated numbers from stage 1, and since stage 2 doesn't exist, we can just enter submission mode. You can see the LED is flashing, so we can just go from it, and that's because we already struck on this module. So, what now? Well, as you may expect, we shall again submit those numbers as we would receive them. So we just find a 5 and we have to submit a red 5, green 1 and 4 blue. And since we have just one display, we have to add the RGB colors again as before, so we just submit it additively. These triangles in this chart are the colors that can be selected. If we select the triangle and then press the display, it colors it that color, and that's all we need to do. So my recommendation for that is, of course, if the numbers were negative, we would submit the inversion. So as before, we will have more examples in a minute. So my recommendation is do the red one first, then green one, and then see what changes, and then the blue one and see what changes. So red one is a 5, so we can just mark down a 5 in red. Now for green one, it's actually a 1. So we shall mark these two. This is black, so I'll just mark that green. And this is red already. So green plus red yields, as before, yellow. So this will be called yellow, and that means that this segment is used by red and green at the same time. And for blue, we have a 4. So I'll select 4, blue. And I would like to change these 4 segments. However, you can see none of them are black. So first I'll look at the colors that are the same. So let's say red. Red ones are these two. Blue plus red gives us magenta. So I'm changing this to magenta again. Blue plus green now is cyan. And blue plus yellow, we don't have that. However, if you just have a look at yellow, if I add yellow, if I add blue to yellow, I'll get RGB, which is white. So the yellow one will become white. And this weird 9 isn't really a 9, it's 514 in RGB. After you have submitted everything, you just press submit, and it will say yeah, and the module will be solved, and nothing can be pressed anymore. Okay. Now I'll probably just close this and I'll show you full staged 7 module and try to calculate it on fly. So I'll quickly go through the stages so you can actually sorry for that. So you can actually I didn't save. You can actually read it yourself, and then after that I'll do that. So you'll have to pause the video if you want to, do it yourself without my help. Okay, I'll leave this here. And of course, we have a 7 module, which is here. This is the 0th stage. I don't know if you want to read the screenshots. I probably won't read all the segments because it's there's not even interactive for that. So yeah, just read the stages. We have black LED. First stage is this one for white LED. Then second stage is this one for red LED. Third one, red LED and this one. Fourth one, blue and this one. Fifth one, white LED and this one. Then sixth one is red LED and it looks like this. And the last 7th stage of the 7 module is with green LED and it looks like this. And of course then we loop back to 0, because we have at least 7 solvable modules on the bomb, therefore it calculated 7 more stages, and that's the maximum amount, there will never be more. And now let's quickly do that. So we have to write down everything. By the way, quick note, there's a souvenir for this, and it wants to know all the LED colors and all the initial values for RGB, just the initial values. Okay, but nothing more. Now let's quickly do the module. By the way, if you just solve any modules, it doesn't affect this module because it's not a boss, even though it may look scary. However, it may affect the alarm clock. So let's go for this. For red, we have a 2. For green, we have just a 1. And for blue, it's this 5. Okay, so all positive. We can just quickly copy this to the calculations. And now let's go to the first stage. So the LED is white. For red, we're getting a 0, which is possible as I noted before. For green, we have just these two, which is a 1. And for blue, we have this, which is a 5. Okay, again, all positive. Then we have red LED. For red, this looks like a 1, however, remember that 1 is always in the right position. These two segments only. It cannot be anywhere else. Therefore, this means that that is not a digit and we have to take the inversion. So this will be a minus, and what? Well, the missing segments, which is this, 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 and this, and these 5 make a 3. So this is actually a -3 for red. For green, we have just this one, and it is not a number. Therefore, we take the inversion, which looks like a 9. Therefore, it's a 9. So it's a -9, to be precise. And for blue, we have nothing. Black, red, and yellow, all of them don't contain a blue. So for blue, we have the inversion, so minus, and all the segments. And all the segments are an 8. Therefore, it's -8 for blue. Next stage is red. For red, we have a 1 again. Oh, actually, the first time, but yeah, it's the third one we had. For green, we have a 5, which is also the third 5 we have. And for blue, it's a 2. Surprise. Okay. Of course, as you may notice, it's very easy to misread anything. And if you just misread one segment, it may cause, it will actually cause probably a strike and a recalculation and reread of every single segment and stage. That's why this module is very hard, because mistakes are very hard to find. Okay, for blue LED on stage 4, we have, for red, we have everything. These all contain red. Therefore, it's an 8, +8 actually. For green, we have a 2. And for blue, if you can see, we have the magenta ones and the white ones. So it's the echo, which is impossible. Therefore, it's a minus, the inversion, -1. For fifth stage, white, red will give us just this segment, which is a 9 inverted. So this is -9. For blue, actually, okay. For green and blue, it's the same number, because you can see that all these black don't contain green and blue, and all these cyan and white do contain green and blue. So for those two, we'll have the same number. And since this is not a number, then we take the inversion, which is this, this, and this. So it's -7. So we have -7 for both. Sixth stage. For red, we have a 0. By the way, the LED is red, which is important, of course. So it's a 0. For green, we have this decoy 1, which is not a 1. It's a -3. And for blue ones, we have 7, because magenta is does contain blue. And last stage, finally, is green. For red ones, we have just these two. So it's a -5 because of the inversion. Yep. For green, we have a 1. And for blue, we have these, which is 6. So we didn't have a 4 actually, but we did have a 4 in the last module, so I believe that's clear. Just checking, but yeah, it seems like it. Okay. Now since we're done, you can see that we're done. We'll calculate. And how do we calculate? Well, for white, I said we ignore this, and we'll ignore that dn is absolute value of the digit. We'll just take it as it is. So for white we multiply. So we multiply this number by these numbers, and rows respectively. So red channel, green channel, and blue channel exclusively. And I probably recommend to do all of the calculations of that one stage for all 3 channels at once, like after each other immediately, not just to calculate first red and then green, because you'll always have to look at what the color is of the LED and what the operation is. This way we can just calculate. So 2 times 0 is a 0, 1 times 1 is a 1, and 5 times 5 is a 5, I mean 25, however that's larger than 10, so we subtract 10, 15 is still larger than 10, so we subtract 10 again, and it's a 5. So as you can see, these two didn't change, and 2 changed to 0. For red stage, we add, so we're adding them together. 0 minus 3 plus minus 3 is minus 3, 1 plus minus 9 is 1 minus 9, which is minus 8, and 5 plus minus 8 is a minus 3. Now, red again, we're adding again. Minus 3 plus 1 is a minus 2. Minus 8 plus 5 is a minus 3, and minus 3 plus 2 is minus 1. Blue, subtraction, which is not symmetric as multiplication and adding is, addition is. So what are we subtracting from what? For blue, we're taking the display digit and then subtracting the calculated number from it. So we have to take 8 minus minus 2, which is 8 plus 2, which is 10, which is greater than 9, so we have to subtract 10, and that yields 0. So that's a 0 for us. Then we have 2 minus minus 3 is a 5, and minus 1 minus minus 1 is a 0. Okay, for white one we multiply again, but we have 2 zeros, so we just write down the zeros, and for the green channel we have minus 7 times 5, which is 35, but negative, so minus 35. You can actually see that I did this times this first, even though the manual says the opposite way, because the operation is symmetric. And for minus 35 I have to add 10 3 times to get minus 5, which is already in the range minus 9 to 9. So this is minus 5. For red one we add, so 0 plus 0 is 0, minus 5 plus minus 3 is minus 8, and 0 plus 7 is 7. And last calculations for green stage, we subtract. However, we subtract this time from the calculated digit, we subtract the display digit. So 0 minus minus 5 is 0 plus 5, which is 5. Minus 8 minus 1 is minus 9, and 7 minus 6 is a 1. Now, that's for blue, green LED, but for blue channel, and this is our solution. So our solution is 5 minus 9, 1. Let's enter the submission mode, and let's try those. So for red 5, we have these. For green 9, I'll take the green, and just imagine how the 9 looks like. It's these 4 segments and these 2. So these 6 segments. Which segments are we missing since we want the negative 9? Well, only this segment. So we call this green, because it was black. Therefore we add green. And for for blue we want 1. So that's these 2 segments, we add blue here, and red plus blue is magenta. So this is the final state, and if we submit, it's a solve. So I think that's kind of it. I'll quickly show a few more things, just the technical things. This is what you need to know to actually solve the module. But the technical things are, by the way, let's just load the bomb again. These conditions I want to go through. So in some cases you may have the LED blinking already, like when you enter the submission board. Otherwise it will just be solid, as you saw on the first bomb. And that means that you can just press it to regrab the stages without striking. And the conditions are that the bomb started on Zen mode, or in any mode that it ticks up. Then and regardless of the strikes, of course, if the bomb started on time mode, then at least one strike must be accumulated on the specific module alone to regrip the stage. And otherwise, if at least one strike from this particular module was accumulated, then you can regrab the stages. Actually, yeah, I emphasized that wrong, because you can see if I enter the submission mode, this is not blinking. However, if I strike here, it starts blinking, even though it was not strike on this particular module. And it stays, oh, it stays that way, by the way. It never changes. So, that was one thing I wanted to go through, and the second one is striking on this module. You can see that if we go into this module, you can actually press all of these and nothing happens, even with these and nothing happens. But where you can strike is actually submitting, as you saw on the first bomb, and submitting wrong things. So just let me quickly pull up the log for this bomb, so I don't have to calculate it again. So the solution, you can also see that the log for this is pretty neat, because it shows everything. So the combination actually is 0, 0, 0. Wow! Which is, of course, all three channels in segments that make 0. So this would be void. All of these would be void. And what does happen when we submit something wrong? Let's say I would just forget red here, and let's say I would add red here. So if I submit this, you can see that the segments change its color to green and red only. This is not just because it looks nice. It's actually it actually has a meaning that the green segments are correct or were submitted correctly, and the red segments are not. It actually doesn't tell you which colors were wrong. It just tells you these segments were wrong. And if you think about it for a moment, it kinda gives you an idea of where in the calculations you were wrong. However, not really, because you don't know the channel you made a mistake in. You just know that, okay, if there's only, I don't know, one 6, let's say, and 2 zeros, then the 6 probably is incorrect, because it says that this is incorrect. But also one of the zeros can be incorrect, because it just means that it should be a 6 as well, and therefore this shouldn't contain, I don't know, green or blue, and this should contain green or blue. So it doesn't really tell you much. It's just a neat thing. And when you press anything, it just goes off. If I submit it again, of course, it will be completely wrong, because it should be 5 white. Also, if I press just the LED, then it goes off again. And lastly, you can see this is correct because it was black and it should have been black. If you have this and you submit it, it will always be wrong, because, of course, these segments are wrong. At least that's what I think. If the solution would be actually for blue and 8, and then, oh yeah, it will always be wrong, because as you, at least this particular configuration, because yeah, that cannot be -0. But I don't know what would happen if this actual state would be the solution state, if you had just red and greens for this. I think it would just be submittable, and that would be it. Okay, but otherwise, thank you for watching. And if you have any question, concerns, anything, leave it down in the comment section below. I know this tutorial is pretty long, because the module is pretty complex, but not really. It's just for the practice. If you like this video, please leave a like, and I'll see you next time. Bye bye.